amongst you all. So it's February the 3rd, 2024, Saturday. So we'll have a kirtan, and then we'll read our Jaiva Dharma. Jaya Chri. No, where we go? Dhamadhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari O Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Hare Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ramo Ramo Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Ramo 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 Hare Hare Oh Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Oh, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, oh Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, oh Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura. Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Jaya Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai, Nityananda Rai. Oh Jaya Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura Hari, Sachinandan Jaya Gaura. Oh Jaya Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe, Radha, Madana Mohan Radha, Madana Mohan Radhe. Jaya Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe, Vrishabhanu Nandini Radhe Radhe. Oh Radhe, 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 Radhe. Jai Shishi Guru Garanga Ganhavika Girit Hare Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai Vrishabhananandini Vajeshwari Radharani Ki Jai Jai Nityananda Rai Ki Jai Satchinandana Gaur Hari Ki Jai Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Surabhi Kunj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashishimat Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashishimat Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Astotar Sarashishimat Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Srila Gaurikishoras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Saptam Goswami Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Jai Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Gaudi Varantaracharya Ki Jai Jai Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya Ki Jai Jai Srila Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shibata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bharadasa Raghunath Sat Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsad Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Gahol Se Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Shri Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Antadvip Mayapur Simantadvip Gautranadvip Madhyadvip Koladvip Riturjeet Jaladvip Motandvip Buddhadvip Atmaganavadvip Dham Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Go Govardhan Dvarasabha Matmika Shri Brajamandal Ki Jai Radha Kund Shama Kund Tulsi Devi Bhakti Devi Jamuna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Jai Shrimati Brinda Devi Maharani ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Yogamaya Purnamasi Devi Maharani ki jai. Jai Gopishwa Mahadev ki jai. Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra ki
Jai.
jai. Ketra Mandal ki
Jai.
jai. Jai Sarva Vigna Vinashakari Shina Shingadev Bhagavan ki jai.
Jai.
Bhakta Prabha Shri Prahlad Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Charidam ki jai.
Jai.
Chari Sampradaya ki jai.
Jai.
Charya Charya ki jai.
Jai.
Akara Mataraj Shri Chaitanya Mat ki jai.
Jai.
Keshavji Gaudiya Mat ki jai.
Jai.
Grantaraj Shrimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Jai.
Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Almagina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmaya Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namaha Priya Swarupe Daita Swarupe Prema Swarupe Sahajabi Rupe Nijana Rupe Prabhu Eka Rupe Tatana Rupe Swavilasa Rupe Anapita chirim chirat kuruna vartinokalo samarpaitam unnata ujvala rasam savakti shriyam Hari Purata Sundaratu Dikatam Basadipita Sada Hridare Kandare Spudatu Vasachinandanaha Yam Prabhajantam Anapetyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Tarabopinidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Bhaktya vihina aparada lakshay shiptascha karmadita rangamadye kripa tvam sharanam prapana brinde namaste charanaravindam bhajami radham aravinda netram smarami radham madhurashmitasyam vadami radham karuna paradram tatoma manastikatyana kapi tavaivasmi najivami tvayivina iti vignaya radhe tvam nayamam charanantikam. I'm first of all offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Nityalila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasarashi Shimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again, millions and millions of times, unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nityalila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarasarashi Shimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And again, I'm offering my Dandavat pranams to Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Satchitananda Namine Gauda Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. And unto our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnav and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvevacha Patitanam Papnebhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha. So continuing with our study of Jaiva Dhamma, and we've reached the last four verses. Jaiva Dhamma Pateshe Shuddha Bhakti Hoy Jaiva Dhamma Napadile Kabe Bhakti Noy. One who reads Jaiva Dhamma with faithful deliberation will surely attain Shuddha Bhakti, but one who does not read Jaiva Dhamma can never attain Bhakti. Unless we study the Shastras, how will we know where to go? How will we know what is in our best interest? How we will know what sort of bhajan to perform unless we read the gifts that the acharyas have given. They've taken the direction from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is so unique in his presentation, what he's actually giving. He's taking everything to a complete new level that has never been taken to in the history of the day of Lord Brahma. This gift of Ragmarg, empowered by the holy name, and entrance into Sri Vrindavan. So unless we take guidance from his emissaries, from Rupa Goswami, from Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishnadas Kaviraj, Srinivas Shyamananda, um, uh, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is Vinod Manjari. All, as I said yesterday. So how will we know how to travel on this very rare path, Rag March Chandrika? This is described by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this Rag Marg Chandrika. It's a small moonlit path in the forest, just a small line. How are we going to follow that unless we absorb ourselves in faithful deliberation? Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying here, that means with full focused intention on surrendering to the words of these granthas, putting these words above our heads, taking shelter of them, never looking and thinking, oh yes, I'm knowing all this. Every time you read, how many times have we read this since you've been here? So many times, and every time it's different. And the same in the text also. Every time we read it, and we should read it all our lives. And every single time you're going to read it, it's going to be a new revelation for us. Every single time it'll be a new revelation because we've progressed since the last time we read it. Because the devotees' momentum is very fast because the holy name is so empowering. It just takes us along every day. It's a fresh experience in Krishna consciousness. So with faithful deliberation, and if one is averse to reading Jaiva Dharma, what hope does he have for auspiciousness in this life? This is a tragedy. Rupanuga Abhiman Pate Trita Hoy, Jaiva Dhamma Vimukake Dharma Hine Koi. Faithfully, again, reading Jaiva Dhamma will surely strengthen one's abhiman, one's identity as a Rupanuga, follower of Rupa Goswami. Yes, to be identified with Rupa Goswami. He is my principal personality that I'm holding on to his lotus feet, because from him has come all the teachings have filtered through him, have come. He's like a what do you call transparent medium, and all Mahaprabhu's teachings, all Shikshastakam has all come through Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami in his Brihat Vaishnava Toshani, and Srila Jiva Goswami. All were empowered personalities, empowered representatives, empowered ultimately by Sri Radhika to set us on this unique trail. Jaiva Goswami, remember, he couldn't even write that Radharani, that Krishna is going to put his head at the lotus feet of Sri Radhika and put his flute and peacock feather there. Smaragarala Kandanam, Mama Sirasi Mandanam, Dehi Padapalapam, Udaram. He couldn't write that. It was too much. So all were like that previously. Jaidev Goswami was a great mystic devotee, personality. He understood the relationship between Radha and Krishna, but not the part of Krishna surrendering to Radhika. This was very hard. And only Mahaprabhu, he's he's opening out Parakiya Bhav. Without an understanding of Parakiya Bhav, for example, Srimad Bhagavatam is meaningless. In the Rasa Panchadhiya chapters, where it's describing that the young Brajavadus, they run to the forest at night, how can we comprehend this? How can we reconcile this in terms of Krishna's, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how can he transgress dharmic laws? How can he do like that? Nobody could understand. Jiva Goswami had to write separate commentaries so that his disciples in Swakya Bhav could actually take something from Mahaprabhu. But Swakya Bhav is in Dwarka, and in Vrindavan is Parakiya. Krishna took other men's wives. How do we reconcile that? A good standing Vaishnava is very moralistic. With being with other men's wives is totally abhorrent. This is completely opposed to Dharma. So how is this Supreme Lord transgressing Dharma? Shukadev Goswami explains in the 33rd chapter. He explains to Parikshit Maharaj that Krishna is like as pure as fire. Fire, you can throw many contaminated things. You can throw a dead body, a body smelling, decomposing body. You can throw it into fire. The fire is not contaminated. The fire can never be contaminated by anything. So Krishna has these types of qualities. He cannot be contaminated. Therefore, we should try to appreciate and understand the nature of this parakya. And this is the gift that Rupa Goswami is giving in all his writings. He's explaining it very gently to get us familiar with. And it takes time to really understand this conception. It doesn't just happen in a flash. It takes time to evolve this. Most sadhaks and Vaishnavas don't go that route. They may hear about it a little bit, but then they don't really go that way. They still accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Let's perform Vaidhi Bhakti in Aishwarya Bhav. That'll keep some distance away. That means I can keep um, my own personal moods separately. There's some sort of wall between. It's a shyness. It's a fear. This desire for um, holding on to Vaidhi Bhakti. It takes courage to actually step across the line and begin to accept. And only by assimilating the teachings of Rupa Goswami in particular, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is pointing out, will we really understand this. It's a journey. One who is averse to reading Jaiva Dharma is certainly devoid of religious principles. So he's saying it twice. Bhaktivinoda Thakur just said it in the previous verse, and he's saying it again here. Actually, he's reiterating himself many times because he knows we're so dull. We've got to hear it again and again and again and again to hear and to have faith, faithful deliberation, faithfully reading. This is Shraddha. Yava jivane je pade jaiva dharma, bhaktiman se jana brita jnana karma. One who faithfully, third time, reads Jaiva Dharma throughout his entire life will be endowed with bhakti. It's the words, the Satya Sankalpa of the pure devotee, the Mahabhagavat. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is telling us if we read it our entire life, we'll be endowed with bhakti and will surely realize the futility of jnana and karma, because that's the alternative. On this ladder, we've discussed many times, starting from karma yoga, and then jnana yoga, and then culminating in then nirvishesh brahm, which is the conclusion of jnana yoga, and then going into bhakti. So it's a ladder. So when we reject the lower rungs, then we can stay focused on what is Shuddha Bhakti. Krishnera Ramala Seva Labhi Senara Seva Sukhe Magnaraha Sada Krishna Kara Para. Such a man, being fully devoted to Sri Sri Radha Krishna, Yugal Kishore, and having attained their Amal Prem Seva, remains forever merged in the bliss of such immaculate loving service. What a beautiful expression. Forever merged in the bliss of such immaculate loving service. The whole dynamic of Braj is service. Nanda Baba, even though he knows Krishna is his son, he still wants to render service to his son in some way. Yashoda Ma is constantly rendering service to her son. The Sakas, they are rendering service to Krishna, even though they're fighting, playing with him, but they're still rendering service to him. All are rendering service. And what is the most amazing thing is that Krishna, he also wants to reciprocate that service himself, especially with the gopis. They are his maidservants. They call themselves his maidservants. But he also wants to serve them. So this service quality is most prominent. So as the sadhak makes progress, he's always hungry. Where is seva? Where is seva? Seva is in Nam. Seva serving the Dham by going to the holy places, by offering dandavats. Seva is in hearing the Shastra. Seva is in my relationships with the Vaishnavas, by offering them gifts, by receiving gifts. Dadati pradignati guyam, sharing confidential realizations and receiving their confidential realizations. These 6 symptoms that Rupa Goswami, again, Rupa Goswami, it always comes back to Upadeshamrita or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu or Ujjvala Nilamani, Lalit Mata. It always comes back to Rupa Goswami's. And we should understand Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is non-different, in fact, to Rupa Goswami. He's like a second manifestation of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami wrote the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Vishnu Chakrabarti Thakur writes the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Bindu. He writes a drop of that. He writes the Kiran for the Ujjwal Lamani. It's the same principle. Okay. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Falshruti ki jai. So now we come to page 203. And yesterday we left it, the discussion, not really discussion, but the agitation of Digambar towards Advaita. And we can see, looking closely, Digambar is very proud of his tantric knowledge, etc. What is synonymous with pride? Envy. If you're proud, it means you think you're better than somebody else. So Digambar is convinced that he's better than Advaita. So this is an envious conversation on the part of Digambar. But how is the Vaishnava behaving in the light of that conversation? This is what we can really pick up here, because we've just read about Vaishnava etiquette in chapter 8, and now we're reading and studying how does a Vaishnava behave when someone attacks him, more or less, or attacks his faith. We saw in chapter 6 when those Brahmanas, they approached the Vaishnavas and they wanted to debate with them. They wanted to know why Muslims could be accepted in the assembly of Vaishnavas. So they were also envious of the Vaishnavas. This enviousness is the cause of our being in this material world. So it comes out in different ways. We should all pray to be purified of this trait of envy. Because when that trait is pure, then what two qualities come? Humility. Huh? Yes, purity, but humility and forgiveness and compassion, these qualities automatically come. Humility and prem. These are the two to remember. Humility and prem are synonymous. Envy and pride are synonymous. Two on that side and two on that side. So now, Advaita, he's asked the question. This was the last thing we came to yesterday. Tell me, what do you mean by material science? So this whole world today, in particular, is people are judging the world by the degree of their apparent advancement in material science. How good is medicine, etc.? They think that they went to the moon. Material science, these are the atheists of the age. These are the atheists of the age. They think everything can be boiled down to a scientific, logical, rational approach. That means they annihilate the moods of the heart's connection through devotion. They don't have any devotion except to themselves. This path of devotion that I just saying, this Rag Vartman Chandrika, it's very rare. It's a small path. We are so fortunate if we've stumbled by some great fortune onto this path. It's the greatest cause for celebration. Really it is. Really it is. We should be so joyful each day and try to unpack more and more clarity in it, more and more illumination. So tell me, what do you mean by material science? Digambar, the Tantra Shastra has delineated many types of material science. Patrika Vigyan. Material science includes whatever knowledge, skill, and beauty are to be found in the material world. Yes, it's all in the material world. It's all limited by time and space. The material world has past, present, and future. The spiritual world only has the powerful present. There's no past and present, and there's no past and future in the spiritual world. As well as all the various branches of knowledge, such as military science, medical science, music, dance, and astronomy. Prakriti, material nature, is the primordial power, and by her own potency, she has manifested this material universe and all the variety in it. These are the wondrous workings of Maya that have completely delusioned the ignorant conditioned soul to think how wonderful is this material energy, completely fascinated by it. This is the materialist, the atheist. Each and every form is a byproduct of this potency and is accompanied by the knowledge or science corresponding to it. You see, there's words of truth mixed in here. Shakti Tattva represents everything. Everything that has manifested from Krishna is coming through Swarup Shakti. Everything in existence comes through. So the Vaishnavas are the principal Shaktas, in fact. So all material science has come through the inspiration of Shakti. It's true. But he's limiting it to just that point of how they can exploit it. And he thinks it's coming from man. He's not giving it credence from the actual origin of this Shakti, who is the counterpart to Sri Krishna. It's very limited. When one acquires that knowledge, he is liberated from sins committed to Mother Nastarini, Nishtarini. The Vaishnavas do not seek this knowledge, but we Shaktas will obtain liberation on the strength of it. Just consider how many books have been written in pursuance of this knowledge by great men such as Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, and the famous Hakim. Advaita. Digambar, you have said that the Vaishnavas have no interest in Vigyan, experiential, realized knowledge, but that is not true. The pure knowledge of the Vaishnavas is endowed with Vigyan. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Jnanam Param Bhuyam Me Yad Vigyan Samanvitaham Sa Rahasyam Tadangam Cha Grana Gaditam Maya. Srimad Bhagavatam 2:931. This is one of the Chatushlokis. Sri Bhagavan said, O Brahma, knowledge of me is non-dual, and yet it has four distinct divisions: Gyan, Vigyan, Rahasya, and Tadanga. A jiva cannot understand this by his own intelligence, but you can understand it by my mercy. That's the key. It's by his mercy that we can understand it. Gyan is my swarup, and my relationship with my potency is Vigyan, realization. This is so deep compared to what Digambar has just said. Digambar just said hot words, but this is really powerful what he's saying in response. The jiva is my rahasya, secret mystery, and pradhan is my gyan anga, these material elements that Krishna infuses himself to manifest this world, his gyan anga. Before this creation, Bhagavan was pleased with Brahma's worship and instructed him on the tenets of pure Vaishnava dharma. Bhagavan said, O Brahma, I am explaining to you this most confidential gyan of myself, the vigyan with which it is endowed, its rahasya, and all its angas, components. Accept all of this from me. So the principle here is that it is Krishna who is infusing this knowledge into Lord Brahma. That's its origin. He's giving credit to where it originated. Whereas Digambar, it's all like speculative. It's all like saying these men were great. Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, they were all so great themselves, not even connected to God or Krishna, even though they probably prayed, but they were so, you know, proud of their own wisdom and philosophy, etc. It is begun through the senses, but that knowledge, where we go. All human beings acquire Vishaya Gyan through the senses, but that knowledge is impure. Yes, we acquire knowledge through the senses. For example, you might see some smoke looking like it's smoke on a mountain, and you might think, oh, that's a fire on the mountain, but it may be a cloud that's come down on the mountain. So your own perception can be faulty. It's not always correct. That's one example. There's so many examples when we might judge something by our own direct perception, but the reality is different to that. It is only use. Where is it? But that knowledge is impure, so it is useless for discerning transcendental objects. You can't, I've said many times, crack the gates of heaven, so to speak. With material intelligence, you can't reach a place of transcendence. It's just like firewood has the inherent nature of fire within it, but it can never, ever, ever come on fire until another piece of wood touches it that's already on fire, can it? Even though that fire is within the wood. It can't just by combustion suddenly start to burn. Sometimes they say bamboos, but bamboos are rubbing together that cause a friction, that cause some spark to happen, and a fire will come. But wood inherently can't ignite itself. Similarly, from the material conscious, you can't ignite transcendence. There has to be someone who is already transcendental touching you. It has to be that way. It can't be any other way. So if we just try to use our material senses, intelligence and logic, etc., rationale, it can never be successful. It just leads into speculative holes. It is only useful in relation to the jiva's conditioned state of material existence, yes, in this material world. Knowledge that pertains to spiritual consciousness is known as Shuddha Gyan, pure knowledge. That is eternal and is the basis of the Vaishnava's devotional service. If it's eternal, then it's Nitya. It's Nitya Dharma. It's Nitya Prem. Nitya. Spiritual knowledge is the antithesis of material knowledge, the opposite of material knowledge, and is completely distinct from it. You say that Vishaya Gyan and Vigyan, you say that Vishaya Gyan is Vigyan, but it is not Vigyan. Vishaya Gyan means knowledge of worldly objects, and he's saying this is realized knowledge. It's not realized knowledge. There's so much error there, like I gave the example of the smoke on the mountain. There's error there. So you say that Vishaya Gyan is Vigyan, but it is not Vigyan in the true sense of the term. The real reason that your Ayurveda, the real reason that your Ayurveda and other types of material knowledge are called Vigyan is that they are in contrast to pure spiritual knowledge. They're different to pure spiritual knowledge. True Vigyan is that pure knowledge that is distinct from material knowledge. There is no difference between Gyan, which is the knowledge of a truly abiding substance, Chidvastu, and Vigyan, that means Dharma. There is in the dharmic sense, which is the knowledge of how such an object is distinct from matter. Gyan is direct perception of a transcendental object, whereas Vigyan is the establishment of pure knowledge in contrast to material knowledge. Vigyan is the establishment of the purity of that truth. What is Dharma? There is material Dharma, Naimitic Dharma, and there is Paramatic Dharma. We've already discussed this, these two different types of Dharma. Digambar is proposing that this Naimitic Dharma is actually superior, but it's not. Whereas Vigyan is the establishment of pure knowledge in contrast to material knowledge. Although these two are actually the same thing, They are known either as Gyan or as Vigyan, according to the methods they employ. So Gyan and Vigyan. We can say it's Vigyan if we've had realization of it. But that Vigyan can also just be knowledge on its own. And then if it's realized, then it's Vigyan. Vigyan is the personality who's realizing that knowledge. That's Vigyan means realized knowledge, realization. You refer to material knowledge as Vigyan, but the Vaishnavas say that Vigyan is the true diagnosis of material knowledge. They have examined the nature of military science, medical science, astronomy, and chemistry, and they have concluded that they are all material knowledge, and that the jiva has no eternal connection with them. So this is a fallacy from the beginning. This is the Mayavad, like the Shakta, like Digambar. It's like saying 1 + 1 = 3 from the very beginning. They're not counting the eternality, the um, practically mystical component with understanding the transcendental reality. They have concluded that they are all material knowledge and that the jiva has no eternal connection with them. Therefore, these different types of material knowledge are of no consequence in relation to the jiva's nitya dharma, because they're not connecting them with transcendence. They're not putting in that extra ingredient of the origin of where that understanding has come from. They haven't put, like the verse said that we've just read, it's Krishna who is imparting this knowledge to Lord Brahma. He is the transcendental personality, like I just described. You can't get a dull piece of wood on fire without another piece of wood that's already on fire. But Digambar is proposing that, oh yes, you can um, speculate and pretend that it's ignited, but it's not. It's a fallacy. It's a trick of Mayadevi. The Vaishnavas understand that those who are expanding their mundane knowledge according to their material propensities are immersed in karma kanda. What does karma kanda mean? It means acquisition of objects in this material world. It means I'm looking to increase, so I'll build a big house. I'll make all elaborate arrangements for my own sense gratification. This is the path of karma kanda. I'm I'm looking for my well-being and satisfaction in material objects, not in spiritual objects. It's completely the antithesis, as it was said in the beginning here. It's the opposite of the reality. Only the Vaishnavas know this. The Vaishnavas understand the true ingredient behind matter is spirit. Matter is not born from matter. It's born from, there's the example that's given. It's like sometimes people are so deluded, they believe that scorpions are born from rice, because sometimes you find scorpions in rice, and they conclude that, oh, the scorpions have taken birth from the rice, but they haven't. The scorpions were laid there by a female scorpion. Then the female scorpion left, and then the um, eggs, they hatched inside the rice. Not that the rice produced the scorpions. So we should always know the thread, the eternal thread, the nitya thread, the transcendental thread, the transcendental current. This is what Digambar hasn't got, and he never will get, actually. However, Vaishnavas do not condemn such people. Indirectly, the endeavors for material improvement help the Vaishnavas' spiritual progress to some extent. Yes, they can give us motor cars, airplanes, trains, roads, easy access to shops and various goods. It just complicates things, basically. If things were left very simply, we'd still get along. But still, they can help. So indirectly, like a microphone, like this camera and everything. It's serving a purpose for the devotees. So it's helpful to some extent. However, Vaishnavas do not condemn such people. Now, we don't walk around crashing the heads of the materialists. Indirectly, the endeavors for material improvement help the Vaishnava's spiritual progress to some extent. The material knowledge of those who pursue material advancement is insignificant, and you may call it prakriti vigyan, material science. There is certainly no objection to that. It is foolish to quarrel over names. Digambar. Well, if there were no advancement of material knowledge, how could you Vaishnavas conveniently satisfy your material needs and be free to engage in bhajan? You should also make some endeavor for material advancement. So he's challenging. It's a good challenge. Advaita. People work in different ways according to their respective inclinations, but Ishvara is the supreme controller of all, and he awards each person the appropriate results of his action. So it's Ishvara who is the controller. Ishvara is providing. It's not by my effort. Like we see in this world sometimes, a man might have 3 jobs trying to make money, but he's always poor. Another man practically does nothing and yet he becomes wealthy. How can you say it's the effort of the man? It's not, it's the effort of our various karmas that Krishna will provide or not. Where are we up to? Where does inclination come from? Digambar, where does inclination come from? It's good. Digambar's asking questions now. Advaita, inclination develops from deep-rooted impressions in the heart acquired through previous activities, sanskars. So much is dependent on sanskars. The more extensively one is involved with matter, the more expert he will be in material knowledge and the crafts originating from such knowledge. Yes, the more immersed you get in matter, the more you get implicated in it. The articles that such people manufacture may help the Vaishnavas to serve Krishna, but there is no need for the Vaishnava to labor for them separately. For example, carpenters earn their livelihood by producing singasans. The Grihastha Vaishnavas use as platforms where they place the deity. Bees are inclined to gather honey, which devotees accept for the service of the deity. It is not that all the jivas in the world endeavor for spiritual advancement. They are engaged in different types of work, impelled by their respective natures. So not everyone is the same. Not everyone has the same inclination for spiritual life. And we're not really trying to propagate that. The Vaishnavas are trying to preach in every unique circumstance, just to try and include the mystical ingredient of transcendence within every circumstance. If the jiva wakes up his consciousness to the reality of the Lord in some way, directly or indirectly, then he's moving ahead, then he's making some advancement. To pray. Human beings have different types of tendencies, some high and some low. Those with lower natures are engaged in varieties of work, impelled by their lower tendencies. The menial labor they perform assists other types of work which are prompted by higher natures. I'll read that again. The menial labor they perform assists other types of work which they are prompted by, which are prompted by higher natures. What's that mean? The menial labor they perform, these are men of low nature, assists other types of work which are prompted by higher natures. Yes, the carpenter, he's performing a lower activity of making the shingasan, but it's the grihasta who's using that with a higher nature, so he's making use of that. The wheel of this universe turns by the virtue of this division of work. Everyone who is under the jurisdiction of matter works according to his material propensity and thereby assists the Vaishnavas in their spiritual development. the whole um, collection of activities is supportive of the Vaishnava's lifestyle and the Vaishnava's progress. We have a room to live in. It was built by laborers. We have a heater. It was provided by the government electrical board, whatever. We have water in the pump. We have a generator to lift the water up to the pump, etc. So we have these material things. So we can't condemn material science. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is explaining like this. We have to honor where it's honored. And we utilize it like this, but it's not the purpose in life just to spend our time engaged in trying to um, facilitate, our material existence, which is the focus of the kamakand or the kami. Everything they're doing is trying to facilitate their own material pleasure. And the devotee is using that to his own advantage, like living in a room, like using cloth that has been spun and woven, etc. Huh? The necessity. Taking whatever is necessary. So we can't condemn the Karmakanda path, right? You can't point your finger and say, no, no. We have to accept that people with a lower tendency, a lower aspiration will do like that. And that's fine. That's what the Varnashram system is about. So we should acknowledge that in its place, but don't give it credence and say, this is the purpose of life. Digambar is saying, this is the most wonderful thing. This is the difference. The wheel of this universe turns by the virtue of this division of work. Everyone is under the jurisdiction of matter. Everyone who is under the jurisdiction of matter works according to his material propensity and thereby assists the Vaishnavas in their spiritual development. Such materialists are not aware that their activities are helping the Vaishnavas because they are bewildered by the potency of Sri Vishnu's Maya. Consequently, the entire world serves the Vaishnavas, but unknowingly. Unknowingly. Very clear, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writing. We are reading this, I'm aware, we are reading this very quickly. We are reading it, but I've actually just read this a few months ago on a stream also. And it seems completely different to what I read a few months ago because things have moved forward since then. And if we read it again in a few months' time, we'll understand it more deeply. So it's an evolution of consciousness to appreciate all the truths that are here. But at least we get something, at least some impression. We appreciate how clear is Bhaktivinoda Thakur expressing these topics of don't put material science on the front burner and think that that is to be glorified beyond the glorification of the practice of the Vaishnavas. The practice of the Vaishnavas is paramount, always, just like the Brahmins traditionally were the top of the society because they were teachers, they were priests, not the Shudras. Digambar, what is Vishnu Maya? Advaita, this is the third question Digambar has asked. This is quite significant because obviously Digambar hasn't come across someone who's so erudite in presenting the philosophy as Advaita. Advaita is presenting it in a very beautiful way. And Digambar has had to hold in his tirade of trying to propagate, Shakti Tattva above everything else. Digambar, what is this Vishnu Maya? Advaita, in the Chandi Mahatmya of the Markandeya Purana, 8140, Vishnu Maya is described. Mahamaya Hare Shakti Yaya Samohitam Jagat. The potency of Bhagavan by which the entire world is bewildered is known as Mahamaya. This massive Mahamaya. The whole world is bewildered. Digambar. Who is the goddess I know as Mother Nistarini? Advaita. She is Sri Hari's external potency, known as Vishnu Maya, as Durgama. We should know, for example, why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is going into such detail here. This place where we live, in Bengal, in this region of Navadvip, is the biggest place of worship in the whole world for Durga Puja. On Durga Puja, there are probably 3 or 4 times the number of people that come for Gorpanim. There are millions and millions and millions of people in this whole area that come to worship Durga Ma. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is trying to bring this philosophy out very clearly and deeply. Who is this Durga Ma?
Do they have some big temple of Durga?
Huh?
Do they have some big temple?
They always build
They think so.
every single year out of bamboo these incredible palaces. They're so expert at it. You know, they build them all over the place. They in this whole region there were probably about 20 or 30 new palaces suddenly go up on an empty lot of ground, and it's like a huge, and it looks real. It's all got lights and you can walk in, and it's all compartmentalized, and then you see this huge deity of Durga Ma, really beautifully carved.
Made out of what?
Huh?
Made out of what?
Clay and straw,
Yeah, I saw.
and then they throw them into the Jalangi, or they throw them into the Ganga afterwards. They put them up and they erect them, and people from all over India come here, especially to celebrate Durga Puja. Huge. And all night long, techno music and lots of drinking. It's absolutely horrendous. You have to bring your earplugs. That's in September.
Okay, we won't be here.
Good. It's good, good, good. She is Sri Hari's external potency known as Vishnu Maya. Digambar opened his book on Tantra and said, "Look, it states in Tantra Shastra that my Divine Mother is consciousness personified. She possesses full will, and she is beyond the three qualities of material nature. Yet she is the support of those three qualities. Your Vishnu Maya is not free from the influence of the modes of nature. So how can you equate your Vishnu Maya with my mother? This type of fanaticism on the part of the Vaishnavas really irritates me. You Vaishnavas have blind faith." He's saying this because he's frustrated, because Advaita has actually run him into a corner, and he's grappling with words to try and walk out of the corner. But this Vaishnava philosophy has completely disarmed him. So he's resorting to practically slandering, taking a personal slight at Advaita now. "My brother Digambar," Advaita tries to calm him down, "please don't be angry. You have come to see me after such a long time, and I want to satisfy you. Is it a slight to speak of Vishnu Maya? Bhagavan Vishnu is the embodiment of supreme consciousness, and he is the one supreme controller of all. Everything that exists is his potency. Potency is not an independent object, vastu, but rather the functional power inherent within an object. Within an object is that inherent, um, we can say, Shakti, that is going, it's manifesting from Krishna. Krishna is the source, is the origin. Everything that exists is his potency. His potency is the Shakti, it's his potency. Potency is not an independent object. Yes, Shakti isn't independent of the Lord. I asked the other day, have you ever experienced light without a source? Is there such a thing as light that doesn't have an object for where it's coming from? All light has an object from where it's coming from. If it's the electric light, it's the bulb. If it's the daylight, it's the sun. If it's the evening light, it's the candle. If it's the firelight, it's the fire. There's always an object to the potency. The potency is the Shakti, and the object is Bhagavan. And this is what he's missed out, this whole ingredient all the way through. Because he ultimately, let me tell you, he's envious of that object of Krishna. This is the heart of it. He's ultimately envious of that power. And he is the one supreme. Where is it? Is it a slight to speak of Vishnu Maya? Bhagavan Vishnu is the embodiment of supreme consciousness, and he is the one supreme control of all. Everything that exists is his potency. Potency is not an independent object, vastu, but rather the functional power inherent within an object. It's like the sun is the object and the power within it is the light, right? The light is shining, but rather the functional power inherent within an object, vastu dharma. To say that Shakti potency is the root of everything is thoroughly opposed to tattva, metaphysical truth. Metaphysical truth. Shakti cannot exist independent of the object from which it originates. That's what we're saying. Shakti can't exist separately. There has to be Shaktiman. There has to be the possessor of that potency. We must first accept the existence of an object that possesses full spiritual consciousness. Otherwise, accepting Shakti by itself is like dreaming of a flower in the sky, because he's saying his Nistarini is that Shakti and the Shaktiman. That's what he's proposing, that his Shakti is the beginning and the end of everything. There's nothing else beyond Shakti. This is their limitation. Do you understand this point?
Yeah.
It's so simple, really, but it seems difficult to sort of like appreciate sometimes. But really and truly, it's really simple. The energy and the energetic, Krishna is the energetic, the Shaktiman, and everything is coming from him. You can't say that Shakti herself is producing anything. I mean, the simple example is just the sun and the light, the energy from the sun. It's coming from the sun. The sun is Krishna, and it's the energy. And Swarup Shakti, as I said before, creates everything in existence. It's all coming from Krishna. Doesn't do anything. My Gurudev used to say many times, Krishna is like Nirvishesh Brahm. He just like performs pastimes in Vrindavan. And it's his Shakti who has so much affection for him that performs all of this service of the entire creation, creating the spiritual worlds, coming through Baladev, Sankarshan, the Chatu Vyuha, and then Lord Narayan, and then the three Purusha avatars, Karanadoksai Vishnu, Gauravadoksai Vishnu, Shira. All this ultimately is manifesting from Swarup Shakti. But the origin of this is Krishna. And Radharani has her feet, her head sold, her heart sold to his desires. And what is remarkable, just to spin it all around again, is that in the beginning today, we were saying how it's Krishna who's putting his head, at Radhika's feet. You see, Jaidev Goswami understood what is the nature of Shakti and Shaktiman, and how can Shaktiman put his head at the lotus feet of Shakti? That's what's inconceivable. You understand? It's astounding. It's astonishing. We'll stop in a minute. We can't just stop it there. I'll just read a bit more. The commentary on Vedanta states, Shakti, Shaktimatayo abade. There is no difference between the potency and the possessor of potency. Yet there's no difference ultimately. This means that Shakti is not a separate object. The Supreme Person, who is the master of all potencies, is the one truly abiding substance. That's Krishna. Shakti is the quality or inherent function that is subordinate to his will, like the sun and the sunlight. The sunlight is subordinate ultimately. It's like when you have a flame, the flame is completely independent, right? But the heat coming from the flame is totally dependent on the flame, right? If in some case, of course, you can't separate the two. When you have a flame, you have to have heat. Nevertheless, analyze it. The heat is dependent on the flame, but the flame is not dependent on the heat, is it? The flame will have its light whether the heat's there or not, but the heat cannot be there without the candlelight. So it's not independent. It's not an independent substance, the Shakti. Shakti is the quality or inherent function that is subordinate to his will. You have said that Shakti is the embodiment of consciousness, that it possesses will, and that it is beyond the influence of the three qualities of material nature. This is correct, but only in as far as Shakti operates fully under the support of a pure conscious entity. Yes, what he's saying is correct. This is what I said before. In the Shakti tattva that Digambar is describing, there are threads of truth. But because they're not connecting with the ultimate truth, it's all become out of sync. And why isn't it connecting with the ultimate truth? Because ultimately, the proponent of that doesn't want to accept it. Therefore, that proponent is envious ultimately. He's envious of that ultimate reality. That's the truth. This is correct, but only in as far as Shakti operates fully under the support of a pure conscious entity and is thus considered identical with that powerful entity. Yes, identical. The heat and the flame are identical. I mean, they're not identical, but at the same time, you can't have one without the other, right? Desire and consciousness depend on the Supreme Being. Desire cannot exist in Shakti. Rather, Shakti acts in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Being. This is the point. Desire. Krishna desires and his Shakti fulfills. We have an expression in English, man proposes and Krishna fulfills. It's only Krishna's potency that can fulfill that. But here it's the other way around. Krishna is having the desire, and his Shakti is fulfilling his desire. Radharani lives only to fulfill the desires of Krishna. In every single, she goes into Man because she knows it pleases Krishna. She goes into Man because she knows Krishna has to do some seva to break that Man. Krishna loves service to that. He likes to do that service. So she goes into Man. Krishna has to roll his sleeves up, and he has to really sometimes work very hard to break Radharani's Man. And Krishna loves that opportunity for seva. He knows he has to do that. No one else can go into Man except Radhika. Chandravali can't go into Man because she knows that Krishna will probably just forget about her. Whereas Radhika knows that Krishna cannot forget her. Therefore, Radhika can go into Man for 1 or 2 days if necessary. And she knows that Krishna has to come and break it. So that's how much power she has over Krishna. Desire cannot exist in Shakti. Rather, Shakti acts in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Being. You have the power to move, and when you desire to move, that power will act. To say the power is moving is merely a figure of speech. It actually means that the person who possesses that power is moving. Okay, we'll stop here. But this is a fascinating topic. And when we start again on Monday, we'll start from the top of page 208 and just reiterate back through here. And we'll see how much we've actually understood. Because when I speak it again, we'll understand it even more. It's not something that we should crack our minds out to understand. We should start to appreciate these principal. The principal truth is that Krishna is the supreme and Radhika is the Shakti. This is the principal teaching. And Digambar hasn't appreciated that. He hasn't realized that. So we'll meet again on Monday. And I think we've only got a few pages left of this chapter. Yes, just a few pages. Okay, so we'll meet again on Monday. So I hope the devotees appreciated this discussion of Shakti and Shaktiman today and the distinction. And we can't just say that Shakti is the all in all, as the Shaktas do. They come to this area and they just worship Durga Ma, like she is the supreme without her counterpart of Krishna. She is the counterpart of Krishna. So Jaiva Dhamma ki jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Nitai Gora Haribol 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 Gora Haribol Nitai Gora Haribol 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 Gora Premanande Hari Haribol Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur Ki Jai Jaiva Dhamma Ki Jai Gaur Premanande Haribol Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnave Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.